everyone, welcome back. For today's mani, we're going to be dipping into dip powders from a brand that I have never tried before. We're going to create a set of press-ons today on the shape medium almond. I'm super excited to dive into these powders, and we're also going to be using dip liquids today. So we are not using any gels for this entire mani. I figured since I never tried this brand before, CN Designer Dips, I only figured that it would be fair to do a first impressions and really just bring them to the full potential by using dip liquids instead of using the gel method. For liquids today, we are using dip liquids from Sparkle & Co. I did touch these powders before I went ahead and put gloves on, and the powders are very velvety soft. So if you are dipping right into the jar, it is that like buttery soft powder formula. They're very finely milled. So right off the bat here, I'm already loving the coverage that I'm seeing on this nail here. It is not patchy, it's not streaky. It is a very beautiful, just delicate, almost kind of like a milky white with like the perfect touch of sparkle. So if you already have like that structure built up on your nail and you're looking for just like a one and done color, this might be for you. So we dusted off and it continued that same coverage when we dusted off. It's still looking really pretty. So already these powders are looking pretty promising in my opinion, but we still have a long way to go. We are just getting started. So I'm doing a very thin layer of dip base, and then technically I could dip directly into the jar itself, but I like having a little bit more wiggle room, so that is why I pour into that cupcake liner. Again, that's just an option. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Mallory and I make press-on nails here, and I post videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the main reason I love to create press-ons is because I feel like you can really see how a color or a powder can perform. Let's face it, there are tons of beautiful colors out there. And this right here, my channel, is a great way to see some beautiful colors in action, and then you can get a really good feel if a color is going to be right for you. So if you love everything about colors and dip powders, definitely consider staying a while. We do dabble into some gels as well once in a while, but overall, dip powders are pretty much my jam here. All right, so we're dusting off here and we're finishing up the pinky nail here. So we are doing 2 coats of each color, so you can kind of see the color pay off with one dip, and then you can see how we're going to build up the color with a second coat here. And right now we're just going to go ahead and just press everything down, making sure everything is laying super flat before we move on. So that is the game plan for today. We're playing with some new colors. Now, I've been sitting on a lot of different brand colors for a while. The thing is like you see colors and then you buy them and then you kind of forget about them. And that's kind of what happened here when it came to C&D dips. I think the first color that I kind of gravitated towards, it's an oldie but a goodie. And you might, if you are a C&D dip person, you might know this one offhand. It is called Joker. It's a really beautiful glitter. That is kind of what made me pull the trigger like 3 years ago, and I've never even touched it yet, so stay tuned. We will be diving into that one next. All right, so now we're into Satin Sheets. It's a beautiful pinky mauve, but yet it has a very, very subtle shimmer to it. It is gorgeous. These are great neutral must-have colors. If you like pinks, this is a great pink tone because you have a little bit of mauve thrown in there. So it's not like just like that bright or just like that dull light pink. It has a little bit of punch to it with this beautiful color that we have going on here. And then you have that perfect touch of sparkle. But I'm really, really impressed with the coverage. I mean, we just dusted off that first coat and that nail, it is looking great. The coverage is everything. We don't have any bare spots, and the color is consistent through that first coat, which I love because that means that these powders are super blended and finely milled. So when you are dipping, you're not getting like patches of acrylic here and then just some color splotches over there. You're getting a true color when you're dipping into these powders, and that is something that I can really appreciate. That is one of the most frustrating things when you're playing with a dip powder and it's patchy, or you're picking up more acrylic than the actual powder itself, or you're picking up the color powder but yet it has like dark patches in it because it wasn't finely milled. But these powders are definitely chef kiss, and we're not experiencing any of those bumps in the road, which is fantastic. All right, so now this color is getting more beautiful with that second coat here. It is pulling through all that beautiful pink here. And you can see here, I am definitely spending some time pressing everything down. And if you are new to my channel or just starting press-ons, that is the biggest helpful tip I can give you for guidance when it comes to making press-ons, is making sure you are taking time to press everything down in between each coat. Even if you're doing the gel method, you really want to make sure that the powders and the liquids are keeping the shape of the desired press-on shape that you selected. If you're doing an almond like we're doing here, a stiletto, a coffin, a square, whatever shape you're working with, you want to make sure that those powders and the liquids are enhancing that shape and just changing the color, and you want to keep that shape. I mean, of course, you could always go in and file and buff and correct any areas, but in order to reduce bulk when you're making a press-on, it is definitely key to take time to make sure everything is pressed down. I cannot stress that enough. Pressing down everything and keeping the shape of the nail is definitely a game changer, and you're going to see the difference. Now, I started making press-ons, I would say, oh man, we are in probably, I changed my channel completely to press-ons probably a little over a year and 8 months ago. And I've learned a lot as I grew as a content creator and making press-ons. Before, I was not taking that time to press everything down, and you can really see the difference. If you ever made a set of press-ons and it's really bulky, or it's not applying to your natural nail as well, or it's feeling tight, that would be an indicator that you might have potentially created too much bulk, and then it kind of changed the shape of that nail for you. But my biggest thing is just make sure everything is laying super flat. Also, another thing, a helpful tip when creating press-ons is your liquids is the viscosity, a thinner consistency. Thinner consistency is definitely key because that's also going to help reduce bulk. And if you're doing the gel method, a thinner gel. So those are my key points. We will dive into more tips and tricks here in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. All right, so now we're into the glitter. Now, I love a good glitter. It is everything. It's really pretty. It has like this color shiftiness to it, kind of has a little bit of holographic shiftiness to it. Very beautiful base color. It's still pulling in that beautiful mauve pink. Now, I debated. I was looking at this nail here and I was like, we could totally get away with one coat here. But I was like, okay, in all fairness, let's see what it looks like with a second coat. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to add another layer of dip base here and go in with a second dip. But this glitter right here is really, really beautiful. And you're going to be able to do a lot with this. You're going to be able to pair it with so many things. I feel like the color palette that we're playing with right here, it's great if you love neutrals. Wedding season is coming up, so if you want still like a pop of color, but a little bit muted, Satin Sheets is gonna be the way to go for you. And then you can still add a little bit of pop of bling here with the glitter that we're using. But overall, this color palette right here, it's fresh, it's light, but yet it's still beautiful in its own way. And even though all the colors that we use today have a little bit of shimmer in them, they're not too overpowering. They're just like a very elegant and delicate shimmer, which just really enhance the beauty of your nails, and it's going to give you a really flawless finish. All right, so since we're working with the glitter here, I spent some time pressing that down, and this is what we're working with here. I am loving the coverage. I am loving the sparkle. The coverage is definitely melting my whole heart. All right, so clear encapsulation. We're only going to clear encapsulate this nail right here because I wanted to try filing and buffing into the other nails to kind of see how that powder performs, and then if I did buff into it, did it change the powder? So that is my kind of experiment when I'm playing with a new brand. I kind of like to test the powder's limits. All right, so now that we went ahead and clear encapsulated that beautiful glitter, I'm just making sure that nail, all the dip liquid is completely absorbed. And now we have this beautiful finish. And then to prevent any cloudiness, once that nail is completely dried, taking a stiff brush and really making sure any loose clear powder is completely lifted away from the nail before we go in with the activator. Because if you've ever went in with a clear over a chunky glitter or a glitter like we're working with today and just used like your normal brush that you dust off your powders in between coats, and then you went in with your activator, and then you notice that nail wasn't as crystal clear or it was cloudy or hazy. That is because there was a little bit of clear powder left behind when you activated. So using that stiff brush is really just going to make that glitter nail crystal clear. So we're going to let that sit for about 2 minutes now that we applied the activator on all the nails. Then we're going to go in and file and buff. So this nail right here, Satin Sheets, we did not clear encapsulate. So right now I'm just working that file underneath the nail here, making sure that that underneath of that press-on is completely smooth and there's not any powder or anything like that under it. So we have a really good transition to the natural nail. Then I'm just cleaning up the shape ever so gently here. Now after this step, I could have completely moved on and left this nail as is because everything is laying completely flat to the nail. There's no bumpiness or anything like that needed to be smoothed down. It was looking fantastic, but I really wanted to see how these powders would perform without that clear protection. So we're going in with the buffer here, and I am just going in on that right on the surface there, and it is not distorting the powder. It's not putting any streaks in it. It is not taking away any of the pigment, leaving patchiness. It is looking great. And to make sure we did not disrupt that color, I'm going to go right in with the activator here so we can really see what we're working with. And you can see it's still holding all its beauty, and we have this beautiful pinky mauve finish with a very delicate sparkle kind of sprinkled in there. But I love that color so much, and it worked perfectly without any clear encapsulation. So a lot of times I will leave like my shimmers or my solids not clear encapsulated. I'll skip that part, especially when I'm making press-ons, because adding the clear is obviously going to add more powder to the nail, when in the end result you're going to be creating more bulk. So if I can kind of eliminate any of that extra bulk, I will definitely do that. So I will leave the clear encapsulation off of those powders. But with the glitter, I do not want to skip that step because I want to keep that glitter looking blingy and sparkly and just protect all its beauty. So we filed, and now we're going in with the buffer here. And I will say these powders are buffing and filing so nice. It is very easy to file and buff, and that's because we did very thin layers of dip base, and the quality of the powder is everything. So what we did now is we did the activator on this nail so we could see what we're working with here. And we have the perfect glitter accent nail right here. It is looking fantastic. We did not cut into any of those beautiful glitters. I did the rest of the filing and buffing and activator off camera. So now we're going to go ahead and move on here to the top coat. But before we go in with the top coat, I'm going to take a lint-free wipe, and I'm going to make sure I am rubbing off any extra activator that may be lingering on the nail. So after I file and buff, and normally I do the activator on all the nails at one time, but this time I really wanted to skip around so you could really see what the nails looked like in between the filing and buffing. But normally I leave the activator on for about 45 seconds, and then I'll wipe off with that lint-free wipe. Then to finish up this mani today, we're not doing a gel top coat, we're using dip liquids. So that first coat, I am just doing about 3 to 4 swipes on the nail. You don't need to be too precise. You just want to make sure you are covering that nail. And then when we go in with the second coat, we will get more precise with our application. And then after each coat, I am going to wipe off the brush on a paper towel just to make sure I am not getting any extra activator that may be lingering behind on that nail into that bottle, just to make sure I'm not cross-contaminating my liquids. And now we're going in with a more precise application for the second go around. This time you can take your time, really make sure you're applying that top coat exactly where you want it. And I did the rest of the top coat off camera, and here's the finished mani. It's a very delicate, beautiful color palette. It's soft, but yet it still has the right amount of sparkle. I will say these powders are very beginner friendly. Based on the full coverage, they were really easy to file and buff. They are super buttery and soft. Definitely recommend trying this brand from CN Designer Dips. If you have tried this brand before, let me know in the comments what your must-have colors are so I can check them out. Everything that we did use in today's video can be found in that description box below. I hope you enjoyed this simple mani and diving into a company that I never tried before. I don't know what took me so long to try these. I'm a little disappointed that it took me a few years to finally get around to trying this brand, but I'm completely in love with it. So stay tuned. We will be playing with more CN Designer Dips here on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you all in the next one.